Okay, well, I wanted to do a video on this because I couldn't believe it when I saw it. What we're looking at here is the inside of a server that we just replaced. And you can see that there is 4 sticks of RAM in here. It's got 32 gigs. It's got an Intel processor. It's got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 1 terabyte drives. And they are in a RAID 10, I'll tell you that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just how bad of a setup that this was. This particular company has been having a lot of issues over the last year or so, and they didn't really pay us to go ahead and work on it too much. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and I'm going to pan over here to the actual monitor. And of course you'll see where it says that there is not a signal yet, but it does take a second. And there's the first beat. Okay, so now it's actually booting the actual controller. So you see the lights going back and forth. That's actually the controller that it's trying to boot, and it is a external controller, which is a good thing. That makes it a very positive thing in my opinion. I'll pan back over here and you'll actually see all the information about that controller. And then here in just a moment, you're going to see it actually go to a boot, okay, from network, because it can't find an operating system. See, now it's trying to boot from a MAC address, which means across the network. Now the reason is it's because it cannot find any operating system. I just exited that, and then you see there says no boot device. In other words, it does not have an operating system on it. Now I'm going to bring this up into the camera. This is known as a USB stick. Now, to give you a little bit of an indication, this is what the operating system is on for this server. This was in a production environment for a medical practice, and there's no reason to ever run it off of something like this. Not to mention, this server does not have USB 3. It only has USB 2. So I'm going to turn this server off real quick, and you'll see it go off here just in a second. Okay, now I'm just going to take and I'm going to plug that in. That's it. Hit the power button. Again, you're going to see the red lights on the controller card. You're going to hear it beep, and then you're going to see the Supermicro server emblem. There it is, actually bringing up that controller. I'll pan back over. You'll see the red lights going back and forth. So it is working. And then you see that same screen that says that that controller is up and running. Now it says waiting. There it is, the BIOS has all been installed now. And now watch. Actually, I'll cancel this again. That's because of BIOS setup, by the way. And now look. It's actually starting to boot. Now this is going to boot in a program that's called VMware. ESIX. And it loads. The only difference, as I pan across here, is that USB stick. And then you can kind of see on top that red light is blinking like crazy because it's running off of that. Now, before somebody says, oh my gosh, that's not that big a deal. First of all, that's flash, which is like a solid state drive, but it's not meant to be a solid state drive. It is not a primary best practice to be able to set up a server running off of a USB stick for the operating system. We have tools that we can boot to that run just off of a USB stick, primarily for troubleshooting and fixing things. While I think that this particular controller card is actually pretty decent, and the RAID 10 that they set up with those 4 drives is a positive thing, the problems that I see is booting this to a USB stick, putting in VMware because the person had been infected with a virus, and not putting any antivirus anywhere else on the network. This person actually put the line of business software in a virtualized environment, which it is not supported. This company actually took and had to add what is called a USB service hub, so that way it could run USB devices back to the remote desktop that they were using in the VM system. I have no idea how much this whole system costs, but if that VMware is actually a licensed piece of software and it was actually paid for, and then the size of the server, they could have very easily put in brand new systems and a nice server and been perfectly fine. But this company decided to do things that is, in my opinion, unethical. Booting from a USB stick on a server is not the right way to do things. Now, of course, I'm taking some time while I'm talking, and I'm going back to the screen here. And you see that it hasn't even loaded all of the operating system yet. And it's basically a Linux type of a kernel. So I'm really surprised that this thing has lasted as long as it did. Now, as a closing note, and this has nothing to do with the prior company, I don't think, but ever since we rebooted this server the one time when we had to move it because we put a new one in the way it was supposed to be, we have not been able to log back in to the VMware system. It keeps saying it's a bad password, but it's the same one we've used before. So I'm not sure if that USB stick is corrupt or if the OS is damaged or files on there are damaged. We are going to go ahead and take a look at that and see what the deal is with it. But I just wanted to take this moment and show you what some companies have done, and I do not approve. I do not think that it's a good position or a good design. And while they took the extra money and put in a nice card for the actual RAID 10, and the very silver thing right there, this little thing right here, is actually just the exhaust fan to try to keep it from overheating, I guess. But we've built with Supermicro servers, which is what this is, and we have not had an issue with overheating as long as you have a decent fan on it. That's just a stock fan right there, so that's not really a big deal. Now, I did not even really pay attention to what the actual processor really was. I know it's an E3, which is like an i3. It's a 1230. I don't remember this particular one, what pin count it is, but I can tell you that this age of a server, there was the LGA 20 11, which is a pretty much standard higher end actual board. And this one I think is like a 1366. So looks like they took some cheap passages to be able to put the thing together. Again, I have no idea what the customer actually paid for this. Our goal at this point is we're going to check out all the hardware, because it's a lot of hardware in here. And we're going to see about putting an operating system on it. We're going to put Windows Server actually on this system and get rid of the USB stick. And we're going to go ahead and use the actual drives as a secondary domain controller for this particular office. They really don't need a secondary one. I know it's best practices, but it's such a small office, they're not doing a whole lot, so it's not that big a deal. It's just data that we need to protect. But since how they already paid for all this hardware, I believe that we should go ahead and try to use it. Well, that'll be it for this video. I am going to go ahead and post this on our Facebook page, and it's going to be on our YouTube channel as well. I appreciate you guys viewing. You guys have a wonderful time, and Happy New Year.